Hi all, welcome to the channel Cloud Knowledge. Today in this video, we'll study about wait activity in Azure Data Factory and Synapse Analytics pipelines. The wait activity also comes under the control flow list of activities here under the Data Factory documentation by Microsoft. So the definition of wait activity is when you use a wait activity in a pipeline, the pipeline waits for a specified period of time before continuing with the execution of subsequent activities. And if we go down, they have given us the demonstration here, the syntax of the wait activity in the form of JSON, that we have to give the name type and the type properties, where the wait time we have to give in seconds. And here the type properties description is name is the name of the wait activity, then the type, it must be wait time in seconds, that is the number of seconds that the pipeline waits before continuing with the processing. Then there is an example given here, and in the example they have used two activities, until and wait. And in our demonstration in today's video, we'll take multiple activities. Okay, so since we have already covered many activities in the playlist of the control flow activities in ADF, we'll make use of those activities and create a scenario which will help in demonstration of this wait activity. So if we see the scenario, what we are going to cover in this video for demonstrating the wait activity. So what we'll do is there'll be an input folder, okay, and the output folder will be there. From the input folder, there'll be a file, okay, let's say file 1, which has to be first checked that at this location we have this file. If it is present, if it exists, the file exists in this particular folder location, then we have to copy this file to the output folder, okay, if it exists. So the condition is if the file exists in the input folder, then we have to copy. So to check the existence of the file, we'll use GetMeta activity and apply that condition whether it exists or not. We'll use if condition activity, which we have already covered in the playlist. Then here we have to transfer the file from input to the output folder. So for transfer, we have to use copy data activity. And if the file is not present, okay, if in the input folder location the file is not present, then we have to wait, okay. So here comes the role of wait activity. If the file is not present in the input folder, then wait for the number of seconds which we have given here. Okay, let's take the example of a scenario where every day between, let's say, 8 to 9 a.m. in the morning, a file arrives in the input folder, okay, and it has not arrived for some day and we are not able to copy it. Then we will define the interval, like wait for this much duration and then again check and perform the copy operation, okay. And in order to perform all this activity, okay, again and again, that is in loop, we have to use on top of this until activity, okay. So in total, we'll be using GetMeta activity, if activity, then copy activity, wait activity, and until activity, okay. So the scenario is clear that we have a file at the input location, we have to copy it to the target or the destination path using the copy data activity. And if the file does not exist, then we have to wait for the time which is defined in the wait activity, and we have to perform this operation in loop until the file arrives at that folder location, okay. So this is what we are going to demonstrate in the video. So let's quickly go to the Azure portal and we'll create the pipeline. So let's take the pipeline and name the pipeline as wait demo 1. Fine. Now, since we have defined that we have to perform the inner operation first, so we'll first do this fetching of data through the GetMeta activity, then if condition, the first operation of getting the file, then performing the condition check and copy. Then we'll enclose this entire scenario inside the until loop, okay. So let's first take the activity which is known as GetMeta activity. GetMeta activity lies inside the general section with the name as GetMeta. So let's take this in the canvas. Now, if we go back to the official documentation by Microsoft, and here under the control flow, if we try to open the GetMeta activity page also here. So here is the GetMeta activity page, and it is used to retrieve the metadata, right? Metadata of the file or the folder. correct? That we have already studied in the playlist. Now if we go down here, there are the metadata types or the metadata options, where while studying the GetMetadata activity, I have left this exists option to demonstrate later. So in this video, we'll be considering this exists option of GetMetadata activity. This exists option describes that when a file or the folder exists or the table exists, then exists is specified in the GetMetadata field list. The activity won't fail even if the file or the folder or the table does not exist. Okay, so this exists output will be in the form of either true or false. Instead, exists false is returned in the output, and this exists false and true, that is the boolean result, we will use in the subsequent activity. So this is very important. This we are going to use in this scenario. So to check whether the file is present or not, we will use exists, and it is used for that purpose only, as it is described here in the definition. So let's go back to the pipeline, and I'll show you the storage location for the input and the output file. So here, let's go back to the home, and let's go inside storage account, inside the containers, inside the test input folder we'll go, and here inside the input files folder we have the input files. Okay, so let's take one of the files among these three and we'll perform the check on that file. So students.csv is the file which is present inside the container test input inside the input files folder. So we'll connect to this file in the GetMetadata activity. So we'll go to the settings tab of the GetMetadata one and connect to the dataset. So the dataset lies inside the storage Gentoo account as a delimited text, and we'll name it here as wait demo 1 input. The link service is already present for this storage account. We'll make use of it and then browse to the file path. Let's browse to the file path. So the file path is test input folder inside the input files, and the file name is students.csv. So here we'll select up to the file level because we have to perform the file check in this example. Okay, so we'll click on this. So the file path is defined. First row has header, import schema none, and we'll click OK. The dataset is defined. Next is the field list option in the GetMetadata activity. And since we have selected the file, it will give us the arguments with respect to the file. So we'll click on plus new, and from the argument drop down, we'll select here exists. Okay, there are other arguments too, but for this example, in order to check the existence of the file in this storage folder input files, we have to use exists. So we'll make use of exists. Okay, now this is done, and we will just validate this at this level. We'll go step by step. So we have validated that GetMetadata activity and we'll perform a debug run. So let's perform a debug run so that we could see the output of this GetMetadata activity. It's in progress. Let's refresh the pipeline. And it succeeded. So the input we have given and the field list defined, and then in the output we have the output as, if we try to maximize it, the exists value as true, right? It is saying that yes, the file students.csv is present inside this folder location. Okay, so it has given the output as true. And let me show you, if we delete the file from this location, right, and now perform the execution, that is the debug run of this GetMetadata activity, and we'll wait for the result. Now the output will be exists false. Okay, so this is what we read here, that the activity won't fail even if the file or the folder or the table does not exist. It will result into exist false or exist true. So this output we will make use of now. So let's go back here, and here after this GetMetadata activity output, now we have to perform the check over this result, right? If it exists means if the exists is true, then copy the file from the input to the output. Means if the file is present here, then copy it to the output folder, and the output folder is in the same storage account, Cloud Knowledge Gen 2, inside the container, inside the test output folder. So here's the test output folder to F1 folder. Okay, so we'll take this F1 folder location here. Now we'll go back to the pipeline, and we have to now perform the condition check. So in order to perform the condition check, we have the if condition activity. We'll take the if condition activity from the iteration and conditionals block here with the name if condition into the canvas. Now we'll join the GetMetadata activity to the if condition activity, right? And now we'll click on the if condition activity and go to the activity section tab of the if condition activity and give the expression. Expression of if condition activity, the value must evaluate to true or false. The value must evaluate to true and false. That is, the result of this expression mentioned here in the if condition should be boolean. Okay, and the output coming from the GetMetadata activity, whether the file exists or not, is also boolean, right? We have seen exists is coming true or false depending on the existence of file at the location. So here we'll open add dynamic content, and in the expression, pipeline expression builder of the if condition activity, we'll take the output of the GetMetadata activity, which is, if we go down here, activity output, it will display us all the activity output with respect to the file which we have given, that is the dataset which we have given in the GetMetadata activity. So we have the option here, it says whether a file, folder or table exists. So we'll click over it. It says from the activity GetMetadata1, its output, take the exists result. Okay, that boolean result. So this output is automatically boolean. We need not do anything. This looks fine. So if the file exists, then we have to perform some case, right? We have to perform the copy activity if the file exists. If it does not exist, we have to wait. Okay, so the wait activity we have to define in the false block. So first, let's perform the copy activity. So we'll click on the true case. So now we are inside the if condition blocks, two activities, and we'll perform the copy operation. So the copy operation lies inside the move and transform with the name copy data. And in the copy data one, we'll go to the source tab and connect to the dataset. The dataset which we have already created in the GetMetadata activity for this file location check here, students.csv, will make use of the same dataset. And the name of the dataset was wait demo 1 input, right? So we'll select the same dataset. Now this is done. Go to the sync tab. In the sync dataset, we'll connect to the output location. The output location is inside the storage Gen 2 account. The delimited text will name the dataset as wait demo 1 output. The link service we already have for that storage account. File path, let's browse to the file path. It's inside the test output folder, inside the folder 1. So we'll select the folder 1. Let's click OK. First row has header, board schema none. Click OK, right? So we have now defined the source and the sink, right? The settings in the copy data activity is done. We'll go back here in the if condition block, and we could see the copy data 1 is defined under the true activities. Now, if the file is not present at the test input folder, then it should wait. Now here comes the role of wait activity. If it will not define wait, then simply it will not find the file and it will say that yeah, the file is not found and we won't perform the copy operation. This wait activity now plays the role of waiting for the duration which we have mentioned for the file to arrive so that the copy operation could happen. Okay, so here in the false activities of the if condition activity, we'll take the wait activity. The wait activity lies under the general section with the name as wait. Okay, so we'll take the wait activity, and here in the wait activity, the general tab, we have to define the name and the description. We'll leave it as is. We'll go to the settings tab. Here the time we have to mention the wait time in seconds. So we'll define the time, let's say 10 seconds. Okay, if the file is not present, then wait for 10 seconds. Now we'll go back to the main pipeline. Here in the pipeline, now we can see that this section is complete. Through GetMeta activity, we are connecting to the dataset to check the existence of the file. Okay, using the exists argument of the field list. Then in the if condition, if the file exists, that is exists is true, then perform the copy operation. If it is false, then wait. And now we have to perform this operation in loop, right? So to incorporate the logic of loop, we have to use the until activity, which we have already covered in the previous video. Okay, so we'll take the entire activity here. So what we'll do is Control A, Control C, we'll copy this and we'll delete from here and take the until activity from the iteration and conditionals into the canvas. We have the settings for until and the activities. So the settings will define later. We'll first go to the activities, and the pipeline which we have created and copied will go to the activities section of the until and click on edit, and here we'll paste the activity taken from the pipeline which we have created before, and the connection will be gone while pasting. So we'll reestablish the connection between the get metadata and the if, and rest of the settings are intact. So here now we are in the pipeline inside the until block. So we'll go back to the main pipeline, and if we go back to the official documentation and to the until activity, the until activity, it provides the same functionality, that is the do until looping structure. We have already studied about it. It executes a set of activities in a loop until the condition associated with the activity evaluates to true. So here also we have to define a Boolean expression, right? So if we go to the settings section, the expression here we have to mention for the until activity, it must evaluate to true or false. Okay, and if an inner activity fails, the until activity does not stop. You can specify a timeout value for the until activity, and along with the expression we have to mention the timeout also. By default the timeout here is 12 hours, so we'll make it lesser, that is, let's make it 1.5 minutes. Okay, so we'll make this until activity wait for 1.5 minutes until the inner operation happens. In the expression logic, we have to give a Boolean expression. So in order to perform that Boolean logic, we will go to the empty space in the pipeline and create a variable for the file, okay, whether the file exists or not. And since the expression has to be Boolean, we'll define it as the variable of type Boolean. Okay, select from the type drop down Boolean. Default value will not give, and we'll go back in the until activity to the expression to add the dynamic content for that variable Boolean. So in the pipeline expression builder, we'll go to the variable section and take up the file variable. Okay, variable file. Click OK. We have defined the timeout here. We have given the expression, Boolean expression. Inside the activities, we have the inner activity of get metadata, if condition, and inside the if condition, we have copy and wait. Okay, now let's validate the entire mapping. It's validated. Let's click on publish all. And we'll perform a debug run. So what happens is that since we have removed the students.csv file from here, and we have the until activity here, and inside the until activity we have the other activities. So since the get metadata one will not find the existence of the file and will perform the if condition check, that is exists will be false, then the wait operation will take place, right? And all those operations we'll see here in the debug execution. So let's click on debug and go to the output. So here we could see that the output has the activities defined here. So the first activity is until, then the inner activities get metadata 1. Let's click on refresh and we'll see the get metadata 1 has finished and in the output it has given exists false. That is students.csv is not present. And now it entered the if condition and into the wait activity, right? And in the wait activity we have defined the time interval as 10 seconds. So here it has waited till 10 seconds. Okay, and on the 12th second it just perform again the get metadata 1 if condition and wait. So it will keep on performing until the timeout which we have mentioned here, okay, in the settings, that is 130, that is 1 minute 30 seconds is not over. Or if the file arrives in the input folder, then the copy operation will complete and this will complete successfully. So here let's wait for the completion of the until activity timeout, and in the status it will show us timeout. Let's click on refresh. So here we can see the looping is happening. Get metadata 1, checking the file, it does not exist, it is waiting. Okay, then again it is checking the file, it does not exist, it waits. It keeps on waiting. And now we have this timeout at the until activity. Okay, and all the inner activities also performed well. Okay, so it waits for 10 and on a buffer time of 1 to 2 seconds it moves to the next iteration, okay, to the next loop. So here you could see that the timeout which was defined at the until activity 1.30, it has executed one section is get metadata 1 if and wait, get metadata 1 if and wait, get if wait, get if wait. So 1 2 3 4. Okay, and if we have not defined a small interval here, that is the timeout, then it will keep on checking the file. So let's say if we want to keep on checking the file from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., then we'll give the time here for this pipeline. Inside the until activity is 1 hour, and then the trigger run will be accordingly set. Okay, now we want to see the scenario when we will perform a debug run, and within that 1.30 seconds we will keep the file here in the input location and see if in the output the activity is going to the copy operation successfully or not. Okay, so let's try to perform the debug run again. So it started. Until activity, the first get metadata 1 is in progress. Let's refresh. Yep. So from get metadata 1, it went to the condition check. It got false here. Let me show you here. It was false. So it went to if and wait. Again, it is checking. It will go to if and wait. In the meantime, we'll quickly go here in the test input folder and upload the file named as students.csv. So it's inside here, students. So it's present here as students.csv, and we'll upload this file. So the file is uploaded. You can see here successfully at the input folder location, and here it has already performed twice the loop, and it has now again checked with this get metadata activity, and this succeeded this time. The exists value here is true. It found the file, and then from the if condition block it did not move to the wait activity, it copied the file. Okay, so let's wait to refresh. So yeah, the file got copied, and if we go to the output folder here, if we click on refresh, we'll see the file generated here. Students.csv landed at the output location, and the iteration here for the copy operation is occurring twice because the until timeout was mentioned as 1.30. Okay, until the timeout is completed, it will keep on checking and copying the file. Okay, so since the timeout was mentioned in the until activity to perform the operation of copy, it performed it twice. Okay, it checked the file and then copied. It again checked the file and copied. Same file is copied to the output folder location. Okay. So in the example, the activity executed until the timeout in the until activity completed. Even though the file was found at the input location, the activity executed in loop until the activity timeout completed. Okay, the copy operation happened twice as we have seen in the output. So in order to stop that copy operation, once the exists value becomes true, we have to set the variable. Okay, so we have to set the variable true inside the true condition of the if condition activity, so that once it's set to true, then it will finish the pipeline successfully. So we'll go here inside the until activity, if block will go, and in the if block true activity section will go, and before the copy activity will take from the general section set variable activity. We have not yet studied about the set variable activity in the playlist. We'll study in a different video too, but just for this video just understand that if we set the variable value here, which we have defined at the pipeline level, to true, then it will successfully finish the run and it will not wait for the until activity timeout. Okay, so we have added the set variable activity before the copy activity, and in the settings of the set variable activity, the variable types are present. Let it be the pipeline variable. Okay, the pipeline variable which we have defined at the pipeline level was file, and the value here will give for the true case as true. Okay, so this we have given. Now we'll go back to the main pipeline and to the until activity. Okay, and perform a debug run. So this time we'll perform a debug run, and the file we already have in the students.csv. Go for the debug option. And the execution started. Let's click on refresh. So it performed get metadata. That is, the get metadata activity output was true. Then it performed the condition check. It set the variable to true and performed the copy operation. Okay, so this succeeded. The file is copied, and you can see the result of the until activity is also succeeded. Okay, in the previous case, when the variable was not set, it executed the copy operation again and again until the timeout reached 1.30 mentioned here. Okay, so this completes the entire pipeline for this demo. I hope you've understood the logic, and if you have any queries, questions, do let me know in comments. Thank you for watching. Happy learning. Bye.